They were the family that defined American greed. But the man playing the patriarch was dying on set and refused to tell anyone, and the villain holding the whole show together was secretly blackmailing the network for $100,000 an episode. 48 years later, this is where they all are. Number 1 is Larry Hagman, who played J.R. Ewing and whose ashes are scattered across the Texas ranch where his character spent 14 seasons destroying everyone around him, and whose most famous storyline was not a creative decision. It was a contract dispute. He was 46 when the show premiered, born Larry Martin Hagman on September 21, 1931, in Fort Worth, Texas, the son of Mary Martin, the Broadway actress who played Peter Pan to a generation of American children, and attorney Benjamin Jack Hagman, who divorced Mary when Larry was 5. Hagman was raised by his grandmother in Weatherford, Texas, attended Bard College without graduating, followed his mother into theater, and served in the United States Air Force from 1952 to 1956 in England, where he met and married Swedish designer Maj Axelsson. They had 2 children and stayed married 58 years until his death. Most viewers never knew the cliffhanger that stopped the world in the summer of 1980 was born from leverage, not inspiration. The shooting of JR aired in March 1980. That summer, with 350 million people in 57 countries holding their breath, Hagman instructed his agents to break his contract and demand $100,000 per episode. His agents showed up to the negotiation wearing Stetson hats and cowboy boots. At Hagman's specific instruction, the studio capitulated. In November 1980, 83 million Americans watched Kristen Shepard revealed as the shooter. Hagman appeared in all 357 episodes. In 1995, a liver transplant at Cedars-Sinai helicoptered in after his liver failed. He dedicated his autobiography's inscription page to his anonymous donor. In 2012, acute myeloid leukemia. He died at Medical City Dallas Hospital on November 23, 2012, at age 81, Linda Gray at his bedside. His ashes were scattered at South Fork Ranch in Parker, Texas. J.R. Ewing never lost a negotiation in his life. Larry Hagman held the network hostage for $100,000 an episode, borrowed a stranger's liver, and scattered his ashes across a fictional ranch in a real Texas town, which is exactly where he always said he belonged. Number 2 is Linda Gray, who played Sue Ellen Ewing and who, at 85, is the only cast member still working who was in the room when Larry Hagman died. She was born Linda Ann Gray on September 12, 1940, in Santa Monica, California. She spent the 1960s doing nearly 400 television commercials, the kind of invisible grind that paid the bills and left no footprint. She married graphic designer Ed Thrasher in 1962, had 2 children, and divorced in 1983. In 1977, Norman Lear cast her as the first transgender series regular in American television history in his syndicated series, All That Glitters. The show was canceled after 13 weeks. Nobody remembered it. Dallas remembered her. Most viewers never knew Sue Ellen was a 5-episode guest character in the first season. Audience response forced the producers to make her a series regular. Gray played Sue Ellen's alcoholism not as a plot device but as a lived condition. The drinking a symptom of isolation built inside a marriage designed to own her. She stayed 11 seasons, returned for the 1996 television movie and the 2012 TNT revival, directed episodes, and spoke at the United Nations. She was at Hagman's bedside at Medical City Dallas Hospital on November 23, 2012, when he died. She called him her best friend for 35 years. She is 85 and still acting. Sue Ellen Ewing spent 11 seasons dismantling from the inside a marriage that treated her like property. Linda Gray played 400 commercials nobody remembers, became the first transgender series regular in American television in a show nobody watched, turned a 5-episode guest arc into one of the defining performances in primetime history, and held her best friend's hand at the end. Number 3 is Victoria Principal, who played Pamela Barnes Ewing, and who, when the producers offered her the highest per episode salary of any actress in American television history, turned it down and walked out. She was born Vicky Ree Principal on January 3, 1950, in Fukuoka, Japan, where her father was stationed on military service. She enrolled at Miami-Dade Community College to study medicine, was injured in a car accident in her first year, moved to Los Angeles. and appeared in 2 films before Dallas found her at 28. Most viewers never knew Principal was the only Dallas cast member who refused the standard contract clause giving CBS approval rights over her outside business venture. Every other cast member signed it. She held firm. That clause became the legal foundation for everything she built after the show. She left after 9 seasons in 1987, having told producers 2 years earlier she intended to go. When the day came and they offered the highest per episode salary in television, she declined. She then built Principal Secret, a skincare company she ran for 30 years, stepped down in 2019, and now runs a rescue ranch outside Los Angeles. She is 76 and has not returned to acting. Pamela Barnes Ewing walked into South Fork as the enemy and became the show's conscience. Victoria Principal read one clause in her first contract more carefully than anyone in the room, built 30 years on the ground it gave her, and left before the show was finished with her, which is exactly how she planned it. Number 4 is Patrick Duffy, who played Bobby Ewing and whose most famous storyline was not the writer's idea, it was his wife's. He was born Patrick George Duffy on March 17, 1949, in Townsend, Montana, the son of Terrence and Marie Duffy, who owned a local tavern. He studied acting at the University of Washington, ruptured both vocal cords in his senior year, met ballet dancer Carlin Rosser, and married her in a Buddhist temple in 1974. She introduced him to Buddhism. He converted. They moved to New York, where he worked as a carpenter, to Los Angeles, where he drove a florist's delivery truck. In 1976, he was painting houses when he landed Man from Atlantis. Dallas followed in 1978. Most viewers never knew that when Duffy left Dallas in 1985 and returned a year later, it was Carlin who suggested the Dream Season. 1 full year of Dallas television, retroactively erased, Bobby alive in Pam's shower. It became the most discussed plot reset in television history. On November 18, 1986, Duffy's parents were shot and killed at the Lodge, their tavern in Boulder, Montana, by 2 teenagers during a robbery. Both were convicted of deliberate homicide. Duffy has said his Buddhist practice kept him from being destroyed by it. He and Carlin had 2 sons. Carlin died in 2017. He has been with actress Linda Pearl since 2020. He is 77 and still working. Bobby Ewing believed the Ewings could be better than their worst instinct. Patrick Duffy lost his parents to a robbery, lost his wife to illness, and has spent 50 years being exactly who Bobby was, the one who absorbs the worst of it and stays. If you have made it this far, and you are not subscribed, now is the moment. Every burial location, death certificate, and marriage record in this script was verified before a line was written. Your subscription is what keeps that work possible. Number 5 is Charlene Tilton, who played Lucy Ewing and who at 67 has been more honest about what came after Dallas than any other cast member. She was born Charlene L. Tilton on December 1, 1958, in San Diego, California, the daughter of a single mother, raised without knowing her father, and on her own by 15. She appeared on Happy Days and 8 is Enough as a teenager, debuted in film alongside Jodie Foster in Freaky Friday in 1976, and landed Lucy 2 years later. Lucy was JR's niece, sharp-tongued, emotionally volatile, the character who could ignite a scene in 1 sentence and leave before anyone recovered. Tilton played her as a real young woman in an unreal situation, and audiences recognized it. Most viewers never knew the shape of her life after the show. Married to country singer Johnny Lee from 1982 to 1984, with whom she had her only child, daughter Cherish Lee. Now a singer whose 2014 wedding was held at South Fork Ranch. Married to actor Dominic Allen from 1985 to 1992. Then a man named Chetty Hart, a cameraman and by her own account the great love of her life. In 2009, he died suddenly at 54. The grief drove her into depression and then alcoholism months without leaving the house. She got clean. She returned to faith-based films and indie work and has not stopped. Lucy Ewing burned through South Fork like she had nothing to lose. Charlene Tilton was on her own at 15, raised a daughter, buried the love of her life, lost herself in the wreckage, and came back to work, which for her was never optional. Number 6 is Jim Davis, who played Jock Ewing and who in the spring of 1981 was still showing up to set while dying. He was 68 when the show premiered, born Marlon Otho Davis on August 26, 1909, in Edgerton, Missouri. He served in the United States Coast Guard during the Second World War. His first major role, opposite Bette Davis in the 1948 melodrama Winter Meeting, earned him reviews so brutal the studios quietly sidelined him. He spent the next 3 decades doing B-westerns and television guest work, 11 episodes of Gunsmoke, 13 of Death Valley Days, a long, stubborn career that never quite arrived anywhere until Dallas called him at 68. Most viewers never knew Davis had a daughter, Tara Diane, born January 15, 1953. On February 9, 1970, she was killed in an automobile accident at age 17. Davis never fully recovered. When Dallas cast him in 1978, his co-star Victoria Principal bore a striking physical resemblance to Tara, and Davis grew close to her in a way the rest of the cast quietly understood. In 1980, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. He declined through chemotherapy and kept showing up. He died at his home in Northridge, California, on April 26, 1981, at age 71. The producers refused to recast him. They kept Jock alive on the show for 8 more months, sent to South America to drill, then confirmed his death in a helicopter crash in season 5. The closing credits rolled in silence. He is interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Jock Ewing built an oil empire from nothing and died the most powerful man in Texas. Jim Davis spent 3 decades invisible in B-westerns, finally arrived at 68, kept showing up while dying, and left a role so irreplaceable the show kept his character alive for 8 months after he was gone. Number 7 is Barbara Bel Geddes, who played Miss Ellie Ewing, and who, by the time Dallas found her, had already been nominated for an Academy Award, originated Maggie the Cat on Broadway, survived a McCarthyite blacklist, and been Hitchcock's leading lady in Vertigo. She was 55 when the show premiered. Born on October 31, 1922 in New York City, the daughter of industrial designer Norman Bel Geddes. Her mother died when she was 15. She made her Broadway debut at 19, earned an Oscar nomination for I Remember Mama in 1948, and 2 Tony nominations through the 1960s. In between, the House Un-American Activities Committee called her to testify. Her film career went cold. Hitchcock thought it. Vertigo in 1958 restored her, and 2 decades of stage work followed before Dallas. Most viewers never knew that Miss Ellie's season 7 absence was not a creative decision. In March 1984, Bel Geddes suffered a major heart attack. Donna Reed briefly replaced her, to audience outrage. She returned for the 1985 season and stayed until 1990. She then retired to her home in Northeast Harbor, Maine, painted, illustrated children's books, and designed greeting cards in complete privacy. Hagman, who had for years asked to be made up in his own dressing room because the makeup room was so thick with her cigarette smoke, called her the Rock of Dallas after she died. She died of lung cancer at her home in Northeast Harbor on August 8, 2005, at age 82. The family released no further details. Miss Ellie was the moral center that held South Fork together for 13 seasons. Barbara Bel Geddes survived a blacklist, a heart attack, and a Hollywood that kept trying to define her, retired to a house in Maine with a paintbrush, and the world only found out she was gone when the obituaries ran. Number 8 is Ken Kercheval, who played Cliff Barnes, and who spent 14 seasons as the one man on South Fork who kept losing to J.R. Ewing and kept coming back. He was 42 when the show premiered, born Kenneth Marine Kercheval on July 15, 1935, in Wolcottville, Indiana. He trained with Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. His stage resume before Dallas was serious. Mike Nichols' production of the Harold Prince's Cabaret, the original 1966 Broadway Fiddler on the Roof. He appeared in Sidney Lumet's network on film. By the time Dallas called, Kercheval was a stage actor with a resume most television actors would have envied, taking a role that required him to lose every single week. Most viewers never knew he had part of his lung removed in 1994 after a cancer diagnosis. He recovered, returned for the 2012 TNT revival, and stayed through 2014. He and Hagman were the only 2 cast members across all 14 original seasons. Whenever fans asked when Cliff would finally beat JR, his answer was the same every time. This Friday night. He died on April 21, 2019, at his home in Clinton, Indiana, the same town where he was born, at age 83. He is buried at Pisgah Cemetery in Vermilion County. The show gave him the last word. In the final season, Cliff Barnes takes over Ewing Oil. Cliff Barnes spent 14 seasons trying to destroy J.R. Ewing and never quite managed it on screen. Ken Kercheval left Broadway, went to South Fork, came home to Indiana to die in the town he started from, and the writers gave him the win at the very end. Number 9 is Mary Crosby, who played Kristen Shepherd, the woman who pulled the trigger on the most-watched scripted broadcast in television history, and who was 20 years old when she filmed it. She was born Mary Frances Crosby on September 14, 1959, in Los Angeles, the only daughter of Bing Crosby and his second wife, actress Katharine Grant. She appeared on her father's Christmas television specials as a child and earned her Actors Equity card at 4. She graduated high school at 15. Bing Crosby died of a heart attack in Madrid on October 14, 1977, after 18 holes of golf. Mary was 18. Before he died, Bing had appeared on a Barbara Walters program and stated he would disown any child who lived with a partner before marriage. By November 1978, Mary had moved in with her first husband, Eb Latimer, before the wedding anyway. Most viewers never knew the producers filmed multiple actors pulling the JR trigger. Victoria principal Patrick Duffy even Hagman himself to prevent the secret from leaking. It was always Crosby's take that would air. She knew. No one else on set did. On November 21, 1980, 83 million Americans watched Kristen Shepherd revealed as the shooter, JR's own sister-in-law, carrying his child, escaping prosecution on exactly that basis. Crosby was 21. She divorced Latimer in 1989 and has been married to Mark Brodka since 1998. She has said her father's toes would have curled at what she did to JR on screen. He never got the chance to see it. Kristen Shepherd shot the most powerful man in Texas and walked away clean. Mary Crosby lost her father at 18, ignored his last public instruction, and pulled the most famous trigger in television history 13 months later. Number 10 is Dak Rambo, who played Jack Ewing, JR and Bobby's silver-haired cousin, and who in October 1991 made one of the most courageous public disclosures of the entire AIDS crisis 3 weeks after a colleague died and 1 month before Magic Johnson told the world he was HIV positive. He was born Norman J. Rambo on November 13, 1941, in Earlemont, California, with an identical twin brother named Dirk. The two were discovered by Loretta Young in the early 1960s and cast together in her CBS series. In 1967, Dirk was killed in a traffic accident. Dak said later it was like being split in half. He rebuilt a solo career across daytime and primetime television. All My Children, Dallas, Another World, spending 2 decades playing the calculating love interest across every show that needed one. Most viewers never knew that Rambo's time on Dallas was, by his own account, deeply unhappy. Rumors about his sexuality were circulating on set, and he believed his role was being quietly reduced because of them. He was battling addiction to alcohol and prescription drugs. In 1991, while taping Another World, he received his HIV diagnosis. He went to set that day, taped his scenes, came home, and prepared a press release. On October 1st, 1991, he disclosed his status publicly, one of the first working television actors to do so voluntarily. 3 weeks earlier, Brad Davis had died of AIDS. 1 month later, Magic Johnson made his announcement. Rambo told the Washington Post it felt like freedom. He came out as bisexual 6 weeks after that, saying he no longer had to worry during on-screen kiss scenes. His words, "They've always said it can't be transmitted through kissing. But how do we know?" He died March 21, 1994, in Delano, California at age 52. He is buried at North Kern Cemetery beside his twin brother Dirk. Jack Ewing came to South Fork for 2 seasons and left quietly. Dak Rambo spent years hiding who he was on a set that was punishing him for it, stood up in 1991 and said everything out loud, and was buried next to the only person who had ever been his equal,